do we maximize our creative power? Well, we maximize our creative power by recognizing that we are always operating both on the spiritual level and on the human level, and that these two things go hand in hand. The question always is, where's the power? So we're going to start with a little science lesson, okay? A little science lesson. So when we have been learning about science in school, and most of the ways that we think about the way the world works, it's what's called Newtonian physics. Newtonian physics are based on the natural laws. If you drop an apple, it will hit you on the head, and boom, wow, that's gravity, right? Things are always pulling themselves together, and the bigger thing always pulls harder than the littler thing. That is the law of gravity. And you can see it you can see it happening everywhere all the time, and that's how the principles of life, of the physical life, are discovered, and then we use them. And whether it's the law of electricity or the law of flight or aerodynamics or all of that, right? It's how we fly, it's how we heat our homes, it's how we do everything. And for a long time, the last 400 years or so, that has been our understanding of how life, the physical life, works. And often when we're thinking about our physical manifestations, we are thinking about the law of cause and effect, which is a Newtonian law. We set a cause in motion like a billiard ball. It drives down the field of the pool table and it hits another ball, and that ball goes, if we did it right, in the pocket that we wanted to go in, that we wanted it to go in, right? It's a relatively linear construct, and in many cases is quite useful. It certainly is quite useful for our cars and our planes and our homes. Now, there's a whole nother realm of physics that has, as you know, been explored and discovered in the last 100 years, quantum physics. And Albert Einstein was one of the discoverers of quantum physics, and he himself said, "This does not make sense and I don't like it." There were certain things that happened in the quantum physics that he just found unacceptable because they were so different from the way Newtonian physics operates. And some of it made him really uncomfortable, although he was one of the people who really brought quantum physics to the forefront. Over time, in the last 100 years, what we've discovered is that when we operate in the physical world, when we operate at the level of quantum physics, it's like it's supercharging the way in which life works. So a quantum computer can do a bazillion, that's a very technical scientific term, a bazillion more calculations than a computer that is simply run on the ones and zeros. That is a whole different way of thinking about it. Right? And so this idea of the quantum field, where there isn't even a separation between a wave and a particle. It's like a wave particle. It's the same thing, wave particle. When we operate and we see how that's working, right, it doesn't completely feel compatible with how we understand Newtonian, the natural laws to work. And yet the natural Newtonian laws are built on top of this ground, which we call the quantum field. And so actually both are necessary. And the quantum field and the quantum work is like supercharging what we can do through our physical world. They work together. And when we can get below the Newtonian physics into the quantum field, some things that are quite extraordinary and a little miraculous happen. The same thing is true for us. The same thing is true for us. When we think about the human experience, the way in which we've been taught life works, through proverbs and cliches and religion, even psychology and philosophy, the way in which life works. It's, you got to work hard for your money, and it's hard to get by when people are holding you down, and all the different ideas that we have. You have to be good to get ahead because God will favor you, right? These are the ways in which human experience works. And there's some real truth to that. We've learned things from our parents or from great mentors that have helped us understand how to navigate business or relationships or health, different things like that actually are quite good. They work very well. And then we discover spirituality. And spirituality tells us things like we should trust even though we don't know how. Even though we can't figure it out, we should learn to trust the process. Or there's something larger going on that actually knows how to do this, even if you don't. Principles not bound by precedent. Just because it happened that way before does not actually mean it's going to happen this way again. Do you see? And in some ways, our spiritual truths feel as incompatible to our human experience as quantum laws feels to the Newtonian physics. And yet, what we know from our spirituality is that if both are necessary, our spirituality gives us the ground from which our human experience springs, and we need them both. And when we dive into that spiritual causal reality, which is the ground from which life springs, that we can do so much more. And it's like our lives are supercharged with transformation that so many of us have experienced, that we want to continue to experience. So just like you can go to school and you can learn about physics and you can learn about the natural laws, you can also learn about the quantum physics and how that works. So too, we can learn about the spiritual principles. So again, science of mind principles have been articulated by Centers for Spiritual Living in a current updated way. There are 10 of them, and they are designed to help us understand this kind of different realm that is actually the causal realm from which the human experience, the physical expression, actually emerges. Just like quantum physics is the ground upon which Newtonian physics rests. So in this week, you're going to get to explore the 10 articulations for the spiritual principles. Are there more? Probably. Are there different ways you could articulate it? Of course. But this gives us a ground. We have the first 3 are about the nature of reality. The second 3 are about the creative process and how creation actually works and how we are part of that. And then the last 4 really talk about who we are as spiritual beings, which is more than the human experience. What we discover is that we are, to a certain extent, operating on the quantum field as opposed to purely in the physical world. Finally, the thing that we get to do is we get to explore which ones of these are we already living based on and which are a little challenging. And this is when we bring forward our act as if. What if you pretended that it was true? What if you pretended, like in quantum physics, that you could actually collapse the quantum field into the thing that you're choosing? You're actually observing it into existence. What if you pretended that love was the impulse? What if you acted as if you were, in fact, spirit, manifesting as an individual? What if you were, in fact, a spiritual being? You didn't have to become one. What if enlightenment was assured? What if you acted as if these things were true? So in your workbook, you're going to have an opportunity not only to explore the principles, but to explore what would it be like, how would it maximize your creative power to act as if these spiritual principles were in fact the principles upon which your life rests and from which you grow the garden of your life.